Revenge films.
My name is Samantha. I'm a single 29-year-old and I work full-time at a company. I work at a major communications company and I have a pretty good salary. I enjoy my lifestyle and every day is fulfilling. These days, I'm able to live a free and single life, but to tell you the truth, I just got a divorce about a year ago, and that divorce from my ex-husband was an experience that I am never going to be able to forget for the rest of my life. I met my ex-husband, Nelson, in my early 20s, and we got married when I was about 25 years old. Our married life only lasted for 3 years. From the early days when I met Nelson, he wasn't the type that was very good at working. In fact, in our relationship, I was always the one that was supporting our household financially. But I loved my job and I loved to work, so I never felt unsatisfied by that part of our relationship. But now that I think back to those days, maybe that was what ended up in my husband being so spoiled and useless. Not long after we got married, my husband quit his full-time job. That was when we started living solely off of my income. But the reason why I was able to tolerate that when I was working so hard was because my husband had a personality that I simply couldn't hate. I was also the oldest of 4 siblings in my family, so I was used to looking after people and didn't mind it. Perhaps because of that, even though he wasn't working and he was never good at his job. I couldn't help but want to look after my innocent, slightly childish, but adorable husband. At the time, I didn't realize that this meant that I was actually raising a useless bad guy in my own home. Things started to change right around the time we had just reached our 3rd wedding anniversary. I started to notice that my husband was acting strangely and different. Up until then, he used to spend the majority of the day at home on the couch, but then suddenly he had started going out more and not being at home. That alone was more than enough for me to find it suspicious. But one day I ended up discovering the most definitive evidence. Because of my job, I would go on business trips, and one day when I came back from a 3-day business trip, I started to notice some strange details around the corners of the house. There were certain plates and cutlery that were specific for me, but I saw water droplets on them. I also saw that my husband's suit had been washed and was hanging out to dry. It was nothing less than suspicious. I thought it was suspicious, so I started checking even more through the details of the house, and in the bathroom, I found a long brown piece of hair. I have black hair, and it's in a short bob, so it was obvious upon first glance that it was definitely not my hair. But that meant that while I was out of the house on the business trip, there were some other women that were in the house. There was no mistake about that. When my husband came home from being out that day, I confronted him about it. But he only insisted that he knew nothing about it, and it wasn't even a conversation. Even though I showed him the long brown hair that was in the bathroom and said, "Well then, what is this?" he simply insisted that he knew nothing about it. That was when I said, "Is that so? Well, then that must mean that while I was away on the business trip, somebody may have snuck into the house, so I'm going to take this piece of hair to the police and discuss it with them." As soon as the police came out, finally Nelson spoke up and said,
"No, don't do that!"
I started pressuring my husband that if he wasn't going to tell me the truth, then I was going to go straight to the police and discuss it with them. And finally, he admitted to cheating on me. I was furious, and I told him that he better bring that woman to the house immediately. But then, looking down, Nelson said,
"Actually, the woman is someone that you know. She's one of your friends,"
he said awkwardly. To my disbelief, the woman that my husband was having an affair with was my old childhood friend, Rachel. Rachel grew up in a single-mother household, and ever since we were little, I knew that she had grown up poor. Perhaps as a retaliation to that, as we got older and she became an adult, she became drawn to luxury goods, and she would try to find a rich man and be spoiled by them. When we were younger, it was easy to get along with her, but as Rachel got older and changed in this way, she started to lose friends. I was one of those friends, and I actually hadn't been in touch with Rachel for over 5 years at this point. That's why it was extra strange to me that Rachel would want to lay hands on my unemployed husband. I couldn't wrap my head around it. The next weekend, I got Rachel to come to my house, and with my husband, we decided to have a conversation between the 3 of us. When Rachel arrived to my house, she walked into the living room like she was familiar with the place. At that moment, I knew for sure that it wasn't the first time she had been to this house. While I was away working on a business trip, he brought a woman into the house who used my plates and my shampoo. When I thought about that, I could feel the anger boiling inside of me. Rachel sat there looking awkward, and then she turned to my husband and said, "Why are you making a face like that? You already decided that you're going to get a divorce, so you should be more confident and just tell her." She then smiled, and then Nelson agreed.
You're right. Okay.
He changed his attitude. When I asked them, "What do you mean, divorce?" Nelson turned to me and said,
I've decided that I'm going to leave you, and I'm going to get married to Rachel.
I was shocked by this. My husband was unemployed, and I was the one supporting him, but he was trying to divorce me and get married to a woman like Rachel. I wondered how they were planning on living. I thought about that, but I decided not to say anything out loud, because what happens after the divorce had nothing to do with me. After I had been supporting him for all this time, to be betrayed in the worst way like this, there was no way I wasn't going to get a divorce. So I turned to my husband and said, "Hurry up and bring the divorce papers then, and I will be collecting a full settlement fee from you." When I said that, Rachel smiled again. "Oh, you actually agreed to it pretty easily. Oh, thank goodness. Nelson told me that he prefers me, someone who's more beautiful and has a better body than you. And, whenever I ask him, he buys me anything that I want. This is why it's an advantage to be beautiful in this world." She said that full of confidence. When I glared over at my husband, he awkwardly shifted his eyes away from me. "I'll get a divorce immediately, so you can leave for today. I need to speak to my husband alone." I said that, and I had Rachel leave. And this was when I began my questioning towards my husband. And after that statement, Nelson quickly admitted that he had been using my credit card behind my back to give Rachel whatever she wanted. I was beyond furious, and I told him that if he was going to return the money immediately, then I would think twice about suing him. I told him that he better return every penny that he had used until then. But when I looked into it, that amount was a shocking $50,000. Nelson was crying, "I can't pay that kind of money." But without showing any mercy, I said, "If you don't return it in one payment immediately, then I'm going to sue you." That was all I said. After that, within a few days, my husband took out a loan from moneylenders, as well as from sketchy places, and he paid back all the money to me. And at that very moment, I signed the divorce papers and kicked him out of the house. From there, I hired a lawyer and collected a settlement fee, and I completely separated from my husband. I was pretty devastated by this betrayal by my husband and my friend. But now that I didn't have to support my husband financially, I decided to look forward and move on positively with my single life. But not long after that, I suddenly got a phone call from Rachel. I answered, and she said that my ex-husband had forgotten something at my house, so she wanted to come and retrieve it. I didn't want to see Rachel's face, so of course I declined, but she was so persistent that I had no choice but to say okay. On the day when Rachel showed up at my house, she had such a confident look on her face, as if she had just come here to brag. "I'm so sorry. My sweet husband is such a klutz, I don't know what to do." When I asked her what he forgot, she said that it was his coffee mug. It was abnormal to come all this way just to get something like that, so I immediately knew that Rachel just wanted to come here to say something to me. As soon as I handed her my ex-husband's coffee mug, she instantly said, "Nelson took out a loan, and we are going to build the best vacation home ever. Once it's finished, we'll invite you over as the ex-wife, too. You're welcome," she said with a huge smile on her face. I could see that Rachel was completely fooled by my ex-husband, and I almost felt sorry for her. So I said, "An unemployed guy is going to build a vacation home?" And I hinted at his true nature, but she replied, "What? What do you mean unemployed? Obviously that's not the case. Do you have any idea how much Nelson has spent on me up until now? It's $50,000. When she said that, I let her know. "Well, that's because that was all my money. By the way, when we got divorced, he took out a loan in that full amount and paid it all back to me." When I informed her, she started to panic. No way, you're lying. Nelson told me that he was the one supporting you." Even though she said that she was clearly panicking, and so I showed her my company payslips. "Look at this. Do you still think that I was the one being supported by Nelson?" I said calmly, and when she saw that I was earning a high salary every month, she was even more panicked. "Well, I'm sure you'll find out soon anyway. I'm sure he's being chased around by the suspicious moneylender right about now, isn't he? That's all I can say. So, anyway, hurry up and get out." I kicked Rachel out of my house. A few days later, when I got home from work, Rachel was waiting for me by my door. "What do you want?" I asked her, and then Rachel started to cry. "It was exactly as you said. Every single day we're being chased around by debt collectors. It's crazy. That man, after he borrowed $50,000, apparently he also took out a loan for the settlement fee, and he can't get around it." Rachel was sobbing at this point. As it turns out, in regards to the vacation home, Nelson was fooled by the shady moneylenders, and he was about to have to take out an even bigger loan from them. He was about to be forced into an even bigger debt. Rachel was sobbing, begging me to lend her money, but I replied, "Of course there's no way I'm going to lend you money. We've already gotten divorced, so it's none of my business anyway. Don't show your face around me ever again." And I walked into the house and locked the door. After that, my ex-husband had to buy the vacation home from the debt collectors, and he went into a debt of $300,000. And not only that, but that home was completely different from what they had seen photos of. It was actually a run-down mountain cottage. My ex-husband and Rachel, they were instructed not to get a divorce by the moneylenders, and instead, all of the money that they earned went straight back to paying back the debt every month. These days, they're having to do painful work introduced by the moneylenders or things that were brushing against the law while they live in a rundown apartment together. As for me, after the divorce, I put my all into my work and I'm living my life for myself. Every year, I've started enjoying going on overseas vacations with some of my other unmarried friends. I still want to enjoy this life for a while, so I'm not thinking about getting married again. From now on, I'm going to work hard for myself, and I want to do a lot more fun things in life for myself.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.